Welcome to another edition of Answers Network. I'm your host, Allen-Cardoza. And for those of you that have been sending in questions, comments, I want to thank you so much. That has helped so much for us to be able to bring you this show. And please continue to help spread the word that every Monday from 11 a.m. to noon Pacific time, this show will bring on special guests that can inspire, educate, and in some cases entertain, while bringing answers and options to making our lives happier, healthier, and more successful. And I'd really like it, and I would appreciate it if you would all do me a big favor. Please forward one of our shows to your social media group and to someone you know who can benefit from a particular subject. This is one powerful way that we together can make a positive difference in the world. Now, our topic today is holistic health. So I want to talk a little bit about it from the standpoint of food and sleep habits, movement habits, and the way we manage stress are key critical parts to how we get to healthy. Herbalists, holistic medicine specialists, and functional medicine doctors focus on the entire body and our environment. Now, because we've been raised in a culture that promotes the one root cause ideology, the more we can start applying naturopathic methods at an individual health level, the community level, and the societal level, the sooner we can all affect real change. Now, I am pleased to say that our guest, Matthew Woods, has been a practicing herbalist for over 35 years, an internationally known author and lecturer in the field. He holds a Master's of Science degree in herbal medicine from the Scottish School of Herbal Medicine. A professional member of the American Herbalist Guild, he is the author of several books, including The Earthwise Herbal, The Book of Herbal Wisdom, and his latest book, How the Extracellular Matrix Unifies and Controls Health in Holistic Treatment. Joining us from Spring Valley, Wisconsin, Matthew, welcome to Answers Network.
Hey there. Sorry, it seems I do fade out sometimes here in my video. I'm kind of at the end of Wi-Fi and phone and things like that down in this valley here. Okay.
Well, I mean, so far it looks good on this end. So, let's roll with it. So for the listeners, a lot of the things that I just said in the introduction, some of the people might be saying, what's that?
Yeah.
So share with us a little bit about, what does it mean to be an herbalist?
Yeah, I've been an herbalist for 35 years. That is an active practitioner. I was a student maybe since I was a boy. So I'm 67 now. So, is that 50 some years, 55 years? And I'm still healthy. And let's see. So, yeah, being an herbalist, you use plants, plant medicine, but you have an entirely different way of looking at the organism. And yeah, you alluded to the fact that modern medicine looks for one, you said root cause, but actually it's the superficial cause, I think is the better way to put it. Yeah. And not going for the root, which is what functional doctors, and you did mention that, describe that, herbalists and homeopaths and good exercise and nutrition doctors too, or practitioners, we're all looking for for the whole picture, from which the symptoms come, which is what the our friends and our friends, the enemies, as one of the old homeopaths said, look for at the treating just the symptom. So yeah, so I've been a practitioner these 35 years and enjoyed it immensely, helped tens of thousands of people. And now I teach more and write more. I have about 10 books. But yeah, taking a case history, in my generation, we kind of had to figure out how to do that. We had to, like, how do you do this? Because the art had been lost. We learned some from Chinese medicine. We learned some from Ayurveda. From Ayurveda, we get that tremendous Vata, Pitta, Kapha, the three types, which are equivalent to ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph in Western medical background, the thick, the thin, and the medium. And generally, the thick, the thin, and the medium all fall. The thin people all get nervous and dry, and the thick people all melt and get overweight and lethargic, and the medium people actually tend to burn up. They ought to be the healthiest. They have the healthiest medium, but they get a little hot.
Well,
So
but
there's some background.
yeah, what I'd like to touch on, you when you said, our friend, or then you said enemy, or maybe that's where the word frenemy came from.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about that, because when I talk about a guest, or if I'm at the gym and people come up to me because they know about the show, and they'll ask questions, and so who's going to be on your show, and what are you going to talk about, and such. And in some cases, like in this one, and I'll say, well, I'm going to have a prominent herbalist on, that's going to talk about things that we can do to be healthier, and so on. And in some cases, I get, what is an herbalist? Are you just talking about someone who prescribes, a different herb? And I said, no, it's a lot more than that. But listen to the show, and I think you'll learn quite a bit. But some of them will then talk about. In fact, one particular guy at the gym is also an MD, and so we got into a conversation about what big pharma teaches them in medical school, and one of my questions to him was, why do you think big pharma doesn't teach you types of herbal medicine that goes back, thousands and thousands of years before there was ever a big pharma or an AMA? Why do you think that they don't teach you any of those things? And he paused for a minute, and I said, because they can't monetize it.
Yeah, exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about how the difficulties that you run into, as an herbalist in the modern society, or in our modern environment, to get taken seriously, and do you have to fight attacks, by big pharma? What are they doing to push back?
Yeah, well, for instance, so one drug that was used from the Roman times up to the present, still in use for gout, the main drug colchicine, which comes from the plant colchicum, and it's a toxic plant. It's a real drug. It's not a nice little herb, and this was in the public domain until the Orphan Drug Law, which was passed by Congress about 2005 or so. And I would say it was just a giveaway to the pharmaceutical companies, where they could patent these age-old remedies. So they patented colchicine, which is in the public domain, been used for so long, for 2,000 years, and so one of my relatives who doesn't use herbs, he complained that his prescription for gout, that's what colchicine is used for, went from $8 a month to $245 a month, and that was about 10 years ago. So that shows you, and there was no reason to do that. There was no, because the drug was already useful, but big pharma does not want anything to do with cheap little drugs. They want very, very expensive things. I'll give you another example. B12 used in for pernicious anemia, but a lot of people have just low B12 levels without quite having pernicious anemia. One of my clients, she'd been on B12 for 8-10 years, and with a helpful general practitioner, and he retired, and she could not get a contemporary doctor, MD, to prescribe it again, because the algorithms had changed, quote unquote. Just a mechanical computer program of what your blood shows and if you need this drug or not. Now, really, there's I did research on this recently, and you can look it up on the blog of Malcolm Kendrick, who's a well-known maverick, UK, a British cardiologist. He says, I mean, there's just no way to know for sure how much B12 a person needs. Well, she's having trouble getting it, and she says, oh, the reason is because the drugs that they want to give me are $1,000 a month versus, $12 a month. And,
Mhm.
and so they're actually changing the algorithm. They're making it harder for the average person who needs that drug to be able to get it. So they have to use a more expensive drug. So these things are really criminal as far as maybe not legally criminal, but they're medically, spiritually criminal, in my opinion. It's getting worse, actually. And in my book, so the name of my book actually is Holistic Medicine and the Extracellular Matrix. That is the book that that I just wrote here. That's just come out, and this is more on background physiology. But in the introduction, I quoted John Ioannidis from Stanford. He's well known. He's the statistician in the medical world, and he wrote a paper in 2003 that said that 70% of all medical tests research papers could not prove anything because they weren't based on sound mathematics or statistics, which is pretty serious. The same
Mhm.
the same year, Marcia Angel, you may actually know this, is pretty famous. She's the former editor of the New England Journal of Medicine, and she came out with a book on how corrupt big pharma was, how it was corrupting science, um, and how basically they could get whatever research results they wanted. Okay, and then finally, for the fun of it, I got Richard, I can't remember his last name, he's still editor of The Lancet. This outrage, this crazy quote from him. He'd just come back from a conference, and the people there said, please don't quote us by name. We don't use our slides. We'll lose our jobs. But basically, as he put it, at least 50% of science is bogus. Now, he said science, he included medicine in there. He was shocked and chagrined. And so this is, and I noticed in Malcolm Kendrick had quoted the same sources too. So these things are well known to the people who are actually the movers and shakers at the head of the field, who care about medicine. Uh,
Mhm.
but Big Pharma is just really extremely corrupt. Yeah, I hope I don't get assassinated or something, but that's
Um, yeah, it's they may end up having this show pulled.
well,
Um,
yeah.
but
We'll try not to talk about it.
but the thing is, I mean, we have to speak out. That's the whole
Yeah.
thing, and that's part of the purpose of this show is that we want to bring out things that are going to make people's life happier, healthier, and more
Yeah.
successful. And what you do is one of the things that will do that. And the only way that we can get this information out is to do exactly what we're doing. And unfortunately, it may mean that there may be some pushback from various groups that profit from pushing other agendas. We'll put it
Yeah.
that way. So one of the things that you talk about, in your book is the extracurricular matrix. So let's talk a little bit about what the importance of that is. And I mean, for herbalism, for science, or for medicine, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so we have our cells, we have tissues, they may be all lined together, or they may be floating around like in the blood or in the lymph or something. But they are surrounded, whether all together or individually, by what's called the extracellular matrix, which is which kind of you can be visualized as the inner ocean. When our ancestors, the single-celled little cells floating around in the ocean, they got together, formed a clone at the bottom of the ocean. Then they sent out slime and surrounded themselves to protect themselves. And then they sent out a layer to surround themselves, and became the first multi-cellular organism. And so this this enclosure is like the inner ocean. It's full of electrolytes, salts, all the things that were in Mother Ocean 4.5 billion years ago. And this is, you might think, oh, so we're full of water, but actually it turns out, I remember a Wikipedia article described it as glop. So what's between our cells? What's if we just pull a part of our arm here and pinch it, we would find that that is it's glop. It's kind of a gooey, sticky mass, and there's numerous polymers that's single with one molecule wide fiber, so to speak, and they bind all the cells together into an intelligent network. And this is what's incredible about the matrix is that we eat more salt, less salt, more glucose, blood sugar, more a little bit of a toxin, a allergen, and the body, when that crosses the capillary boundary into the matrix, which rules from the capillary boundary to the cell wall, that whole area, the inner ocean, when that crosses, then signals are sent by along these polymers, these fibers, and all the cells all at once react like, what, huh, what? We get the message that it's a simultaneous body-wide reaction. And if some of you have ever had acupuncture, like you had a needle put in one leg and then you felt it in the same place on the other leg, or on your arm and you felt it in your calf, that's because the matrix sends signals everywhere, and sometimes they show up strongly somewhere else. So the astonishing thing, which you alluded to, is that this discovery shows that the body is a whole, does act as a whole, that the basic premise of holistic medicine is correct and proven, and the basic premise of regular medicine and science, reductionism, that the smallest part rules, that is incorrect. So this is quite a revolutionary overthrow. And this comes from 1975. This is discovered, and it's still hardly known even in the alternative world.
Yeah, because I know that, I mean, I've studied how our mitochondria are the energy sources of our cells, but how do the cells or how does the matrix then regulate the cells?
Yeah, okay. So the particles come in through the capillary bed, and there's we might as well know there's sentinel cells there, the mast cells that react and say, oh geez, there's a allergen or there's a toxin, and we got to react, and they send signals back out to the other cells to come in, T cells, B cells, and they start the immune battle. And this is the innate immune system right at the boundary, and then and elsewhere in the body, and then the acquired immune system that's generating the antibodies and reacting, and so on. Okay, and then there's kind of a wall, just very shortly, there's a wall that's just created by the matrix is so tight it only allows certain particles in. So right around the capillary, this fight is going on constantly to neutralize toxins and allergens. Then what gets into the mother ocean there, and the polymers react, and they carry an electrical charge. It's not like a nerve where you have the constant movement of the electrons along the nerve. It's more like there's a static, there's a state of quietude. The charge is just sitting there, and then the glucose comes in and the charge changes, and it shoots everywhere all over the whole boundary. And these are very primitive signals, but they're enough to control the cells. And this is what's remarkable too. The cells are controlled by the matrix polymers, by the matrix. The brain of the cells is in the matrix, is in the whole, it's in like the stuffing around everything. It's not in the cells. The cells do not control themselves. We think, oh, the nucleus, that's like the brain of the cell. Wrong. The nucleus is the genitals. And I always say it's just like us humans to mix up our brains and our genitals. How do we do that with the cells? The cells eat, they eat, eliminate, migrate, and procreate based on signals from the matrix. They don't do it unless the matrix tells them to. And this is so marked that even cancer cells that are running out of control, even they respond to the matrix signals. And just to digress for a moment, this is the one area where this matrix technology knowledge has borne fruit, where the big pharma is looking at how to stop the cancer cells from getting the signals from the matrix, because then they get confused and they die. and then our
Well,
drug.
now speaking of the cells that die, does the matrix then also control autophagy, the dying off and disposing of the cells?
I don't. Okay, it controls disposal, but not the death. I think, yeah, you pronounced it correctly. Apoptosis. Yeah, I didn't get it. I don't have it quite down correct, but so the cell has an internal mechanism when it gets to a certain level of unhealth, and you've run across this due to the studies of the mitochondria and stuff. Then
Mhm.
it starts self-destructing. It breaks down, and um, then maybe some white cell comes along and eats part of it or all of it, and it's even further broken down. And these fragments are floating around in Mother Ocean, and they find their way to lymphatic capillaries. And the lymphatic capillaries have a door that opens only one way in. If there's
Mm.
and so that constantly the some of the serum becomes the water, Mother Ocean flows into the lymphatics and carries this material with it, and then brings it all through our lymphatic system, and finally, where it's being patrolled by white cells constantly, breaking down anything else and neutralizing things, and finally is dumped into the bloodstream right next to the heart through the subclavian vein. But so the matrix is more or less so the matrix is from the capillary wall of the blood to the capillary wall of the lymph to the cell wall. That's its region, and yes, and we need to keep that area clean. And do you want me to maybe go into some of the practitioners have worked on just doing nothing else but keeping the matrix clean? It's a simple.
Well, yes, but I'd love that, but I'd also like when you're saying that, and I'm very visual, so I'm trying to visualize much of what you're saying. And when you mentioned about the lymph system, because for instance, so if somebody's getting a lymph massage
Mhm.
and they're trying to get some of the I'm not sure what we're getting out of it, but dead cells or whatever out of your lymph system, is that going into the matrix or
Uh,
is it bypassing it?
that stuff is coming out of the matrix into the lymphatics, and then all the way, and the lymphatics like mountain streams gathering together and becoming a river, and finally through two rivers that dump right next to the heart into the subclavian vein. And then that lymph is mixed with the blood supply, and any debris like old proteins that would go to the kidneys to be gotten rid of, or there's still some toxins, that goes to the liver to be worked on. So it's now in the bloodstream. So it goes from the matrix through the lymph to the bloodstream. Excellent
Okay.
question.
And so when you mentioned toxins, and one of the things that I brought up in the very beginning is that you're not only looking at the whole body but our environment. Let's talk about the toxins that our bodies are taking in now that they weren't, a couple of hundred years ago, and what our body's having to do to get rid of these toxins.
Yeah, well, they are sure building up. I've heard people say different things. I never remember exactly. I think one person said we have the size of a credit card of heavy metals or toxic metals, and that's just metals. And then we have all sorts of chemicals, glyphosate and so on. And we have just which is water soluble, fortunately. So it breaks down easily. So
Mhm.
we have lots and lots of toxins, and the non-soluble, the oil soluble ones, a lot of them store in fats and oils, and in our fat, and that doesn't get broken down unless we lose a lot of weight and we're active and we're exercising, and then those toxins are released, and the body breaks them down as best they can, and maybe then the cells do their job, and then it gets to the liver, further breakdown, and then through the kidneys or whatnot. Yes, there's a tremendous amount of toxins, and I'll give you an example, which it's pretty,
Please.
yeah. So about 4 years ago, I was teaching for the summer in North Carolina, and it was 97 degrees, and I bought a inorganic watermelon, about a small one, and
Mhm.
for 1 week, and then the next week another one, and at the end of the 2 weeks, I was I was urinating sugar. There was sugar in my urine, and I called up a friend of mine who'd been had a ward full of people in 1990 with kidney failure from a pesticide that was sprayed on watermelons and cantaloupes and cucumbers, and they were all dying of kidney failure. Remember how so the a watermelon like full of alcohol with fruit floating in it's kind of a popular thing. It was
Mhm.
people who drank that alcohol because it extracted. Well, I evidently had a sensitivity. Fortunately, she and I figured out that I just drank cucumber water, just put cucumber in water, and after 3 hours, it's nice, tasty kind of thirst quenching. And I had organic, local grown cucumber there, and that fixed me up. And I've never had the problem again. But that was kind of scary. And it's a disease called idiopathic kidney failure syndrome, which is found throughout the world in farm workers. This pesticide was banned in the United States, but now all our watermelons mostly are coming from other parts of the world. And one paper that's popular was written suggesting that it's glyphosate, but it's a different drug. My friend described what it was, but it's been banned here. So I mean, that's serious. That's a serious level of toxicity. Our farm workers may not be dying of this disease, but some of us are. It's not being traced very well, and then farm workers in other parts of the world. So there's just myriads of chemicals that haven't been well studied or studied at all that it's assumed are safe. Some that are known not to be are taken off the market. But so again, there's kind of scare stories, and that's just the things we know about. How about the things we don't know about?
Yeah. So we are speaking with herbalist Matthew Wood, and we are talking about your health. Matthew, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, I'd like to just go over some of the basic things that people can do to help rid us of some of the toxins and things, changes that we can make in our diet and our lifestyle that can help all of us become happier and healthier. So you're listening to Answers Network. We'll be right back.
Founded over 30 years ago to meet the needs of families in crisis, West Shield has continually focused on resolving issues that negatively impact families and businesses. Our signature therapeutic transportation service helps to ensure that adolescents in crisis are safely transported to specialized schools, programs, and treatment centers with unsurpassed experience and success. We are supported by our full-service licensed investigation agency that has legally, professionally, and compassionately located hundreds of runaways and teens. We are experienced and qualified to help, offering solutions which may include referrals to our international network of top professionals in the fields of educational consulting, psychology, psychiatry, and investigations. Simply put, West Shield Adolescent Services and West Shield Investigations are the best solutions when your family is facing a personal crisis. Call 1-800-899-8585, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's 1-800-899-8585, or visit our website at westshield.com. Thank you.
And we're back. Joining us is Matthew Wood. He is an herbalist, and we are talking about the things that we can all do to become happier and healthier. So, Matthew, let's kind of go general for a moment, but I would also like to at some point go into some specific ailments that people are dealing with. But what are some of the things that we can all do that's going to help us?
Yeah, well, I started out as like a fanatical herbalist when I was in my 20s, 30s. I thought everything could be cured by herbs or homeopathic remedies, but now I know, as you do, that exercise and diet is the most crucial aspect of healthcare. So we all need to do some to a lot of some, whatever level we can manage of that. And so there's number one. Then number two, I'd say we keep the channels of elimination open. That is constipation, closed skin, which you're going to get in a place like LA, where you have the hot sun, hot, dry climate. Hot, dry climate tends to close the skin, so you want more steam baths, saunas, Turkish baths, whatever, in order to keep your skin open. You want herbs that are diuretic. Also, and as many of you know, if you're out on a hot summer day, your pee is just very, very, very little, a lot less of it, darker, scantier, and you're sweating a lot, hopefully, because you're releasing your fluids that way. So there's this back and forth between the skin and the kidneys. So you want the kidneys open and working. That's a little harder. Herbs, I'd just say nettles is a good diuretic there. So very simple herb that's safe. A little too drying for some people, but it takes a while to get there. Yeah, but so we keep our channels of elimination open, and then finally we address the matrix itself, which is very important. And there were several MDs even before the matrix was known or named, or MDs or Andes that had figured out to keep that matrix clean. And one of the most picturesque was a Corwin Samuel West, who was a Salt Lake City naturopath. He died about 2003 again, and but he worked out. He saw that the basis of health is like in, mix, out. Control what comes in, make sure the mix works, and control what comes out, make sure everything gets out. And this particularly applies to the matrix. So what comes in, we don't want toxins coming in. And he preached a vegetarian diet, which me as a meat eater, I was like, oh, I don't want to believe in that. but then I found the book by Pischinger and Heine. Pischinger was the discoverer of was an MD who discovered a holistic MD who discovered the ground regulatory system, and he said the easiest way to start a detoxing the matrix is a protein fast. So you could do it permanently or temporarily, but cutting down on protein because proteins are what the poisons come from largely. There are heavy metals and things, but allergens and various toxins are usually proteins. So that's the simple solution there. Then the out, he liked the idea of the lymphocyzer jumping up and down on that trampoline, and I'm not particularly drawn to that. A friend of mine said, well, the best exercise for the lymphatics to drain the matrix basically is riding a horse. So there's another possibility, but jogging, running, certain amount of exercise, and then there are good lymphatic remedies. But you mentioned lymphatic drainage massage, and that is an extremely good one, as you know, if you've ever had that. Any of our people have had that. Wow, that's a tremendous changer there for I mean, you just feel really different, and it's going to take a while before those lymphatics close up again. So
now, you mentioned proteins. Let's talk about the difference in proteins, because if we're talking about the fact that there are that's one of the ways in which we're taking in toxins, which we know because of the toxins that are getting into our our meat products or our fish products. But what about the cleaner proteins such as collagen or a pea protein, something like that? Are we looking at it the same? Because I think for a lot of us, if we cut out protein for too long, I think we're going to have other issues, part of which is going to be just a shrinkage of our overall body.
Muscles and so on. Right. We need, he was teaching vegetarianism, which is a moderate, not veganism. And indeed, I don't want to offend any vegans out there, but it's very hard to have a healthy diet and be a vegan, because we do need proteins, and the fats and oils even that come from animals are similar to our fats and oils. Plants don't have the same fats and oils. So yes, our body can remake some of those fats and oils, but at any rate, I don't want to harp on that, but yes, we need proteins. So it's more of a moderately low protein diet. And Pischinger himself, the discoverer of the ground regulatory system and the matrix significance there, he just said protein fast, so that might be temporary.
Sure.
So, and it's actually not that this is going to eliminate heavy metals or real or agricultural chemicals, but more that it takes a burden off the white cells in the immune system and the processing and breaking down of these toxins, because all proteins are complicated and need to be broken down. And yeah, we do it, collagen. Yeah, so the proteins also make the gristle of animal bodies, and the structural material or the hardness of the plant stem is, it may be silica too, but often calcium and protein in these hard parts. And so that is another source of protein, different source of protein. Yeah.
So, now looking at the matrix, what was the most surprising thing that you learned in your study of the matrix in terms of either herbal treatment or in terms of overlooked scientific facts?
Well, the whole thing is an overlooked scientific fact.
That was what I was thinking, but yeah.
Yeah, and you actually put your finger on it, that you're having a hard time visualizing it. And one of the scientists that I quoted, she said the same thing. The problem with the matrix is it's hard to visualize. And so this explains partly why it's still unknown. But Pischinger himself addressed this. He discovered this in 1975 and then died about 1986 or 89. And he said, why isn't this better known? It's because the linear thinking that's taught in Western thought. We can't think holistically. We can't think of the whole body as a whole. We want to break it down constantly, so that they know there's like 350 different molecules that make up the matrix. That's all been mapped out. But looking at it as a whole, it's like they still can't do that. They don't appreciate the fact that it has disproven the cell theory and the whole idea that the cell is the basic unit of life. It's like wrong. And I've looked this up on. I looked up a website of a prominent alternative site, and yeah, there, sure enough, they had the cell theory. It hasn't even trickled into the alternative world, much less the regular world. And basically, there's only really one book on this subject with two different English translations, North Atlantic Press and then Hogg Publishers in Germany. And it's the same book, really, basically, by Pischinger and Heine, Hartmut Heine, his assistant. And so there were no really, and that was a nice book, but still difficult to follow. So I decided I have to write a book I have to understand this myself, hardest thing first. And I have to write a book for my peers, the alternative people, so they understand that their medicine is now cutting edge, scientific. Holism is where science leads us to, not reductionism, the molecule. And so I write for this audience in particular, and my hope is that 10 years down the line, someone will plagiarize the book and write it for the conventional, for our friends, the enemies, and that it'll start to catch on. But first, we need to know about it ourselves. We need to know that science is on our side now. So to me, you were asking, what's the most surprising thing? That would be the most surprising thing is that the whole thing's been overlooked. The next thing is, what's the most important thing? That's that holism is now scientifically validated as the basis of biology, not reductionism. So, yeah.
Well, we have some questions and comments that have come in, and again, I want to thank those that take the time to send these in. I know I get comments sometimes from teachers that will say that they're sending in a comment or a question ahead of time because they're not going to be able to listen live. So they want to get it in so that we can ask it on the show and they can listen later, which everybody's welcome to do. This one reads, I am so excited to get your book after reading the summary on Allen's site. It has been a long 18 months with this COVID fiasco. So a group of my closest friends and myself, in parentheses says retired business owners, decided to create a fairly good size, diverse herb garden on our 2-acre property. Yeah, see, he's loving it already. We have been studying the medicinal properties of these wonderful plants, and our next thoughts are to launch a small business with products for our family and friends and our local community. I think your book's arrival may be the special foundation we need to make this project far more effective. Do you have any suggestions that can help us with the launch of a business designed to help our friends and neighbors live healthier lives? This is from Gina in Kansas.
Oh, wow. Yeah, my dad was from Kansas. Well, let's see. I'd say there are a few herbalists in Kansas. At least that northeastern part is where most of the people live, and I do know a few there. Like Kayla Wheeler. We always studied in my generation. All the older herbalists had been persecuted to the grave almost, except for Dr. Christopher. You might have heard of him, and one or two others. And so we had to teach ourselves largely, and we would learn from different herbalists, and often. So you just go around, you study, you find out. It's a lot of fun studying and talking to herbalists and learning. And someone like Kayla, for instance, been in the business for 30 years and so on. And I can tell you a strange thing. This is Herbalism is an experience-based art or science. Empiricism is a kind of science. It's not research-based or research results. It's what works. And after 30 years or 15, you talk to two herbalists and they'll tell you the same things all the time because everybody comes to the same conclusions. Now, maybe they don't always use the same herbs, but most of them, there's a lot of overlap. So there's a general thing. Then I would say, books. This is a book that will appeal to people that need a scientific explanation. And there's not a huge amount of herbs in here, but they are herbs that are important. This in, mix, out, that is a crucial healthcare capacity there that we need to know. And if you have a community there, I'd say too, sauna or sweat lodge, both for pleasure and for health, is very good. And I'll just interrupt myself here. I gave a talk on herbs and depression, but fortunately I ran into, here's somebody you might want to interview, Dr. Charles Raisin from University of Wisconsin-Madison, who's a psychiatrist, psychopharmacologist, and he says, I never use psychiatric drugs if I can possibly avoid it. And basically all depressed people, virtually all depressed people we know now, are running a degree or two hotter than the average population. And basically what they need is to have those channels of elimination open. He said a sweat lodge, a sauna will often cure depression, maybe not severe depression, but moderate depression. And he had that personal experience himself, so he was a key to it. So you asked for, you mentioned, Alan, at the start, herbs or techniques, things to help us with health and happiness. So I want to throw in happiness there too.
Good.
So then I would say, so this book is very good for the people who really want to understand things scientifically. And there are some herbs in here and kind of food herbs and things too. The mucilages, like okra, for instance. Well, okra is a good one to know about. And opuntia, or the prickly cactus that's southwestern and Mexican food and medicine. And that's an important plant that works on the matrix too. And to keep your mucosa healthy, that's good with mucilages and astringents, etc. Some very simple understandings of, it's like herbalism works. It's more like, I always say you have to be a philosopher and a mechanic. You have to understand the body in a more mechanical fashion than modern medicine. And you think, oh, what is the mucosa? What's the skin? Do I need to open the skin? Are we sweating too much, or etc.? I think as an herbalist, my best book for the beginner is the Book of Herbal Wisdom, and the Earthwise Herbal, any one of those. There's three of them. And I do want to mention other authors. Rosemary Gladstar is kind of the star of our whole field. And her book on the family herbal, it goes by a couple different names. I would recommend her work.
Right. Well, Matthew, let me interject real quick. I just glanced at the time, and we only have about a minute and a half. And there's another comment here that I'd like to get in. And this one reads, okay, I'm a counselor in a private high school, and one of my closest friends is the science and health teacher. We have been discussing how to get our 10th and 11th graders more engaged in the topic of holistic health. These two classes have been tasked with maintaining the garden on the grounds. So we thought, why not go in depth by teaching them why plants bring such benefits to the specific body processes, and further, how a healthy diet translates to optimum physical and mental performance over one's lifetime. We have some very smart students in our school. My question is, can the information in your book be presented in a way our students can grasp and absorb? And this is from Marianne in Indiana, and we've got about a minute.
Yeah, I actually think that my book would be I wrote it for the layperson. I am a layperson, and I am not, some scientific whiz kid. So I wrote it for the general population, and I do think that high school kids, some of them at least, would be very interested. Then this isn't, an extensive coverage of diet. So you would want maybe another text. You'd start looking, find something that's good. It's a coverage of some herbs, and you might need another herbal. But this book, I think, would be very amenable. And I am, after 10 books, I am a very good writer. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying the truth. And I make it very clear and for the average reader. So buy a copy yourself and then check it out and see if it doesn't fit really well.
Well, Matthew, thank you so much. And actually, I wish we had more time because I love this subject. I love what you're doing. Keep up the good work. Now, can we assume that the book can be gotten anywhere books are sold, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, or is there any specific place that's best for people to get it?
Well, the release date is November 9th. So they sent me my author's copies. So if you order it on Amazon, you'll get it. Or if you want a favor, order it through a bookstore. Actually, that would be a nice thing to do. Then maybe they'd order an extra copy or two for themselves to see what's going on. I am trying to set up on my own Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism on my own site, teaching site. I am trying to set up a way to sell books, but it's not yet set up really.
But you just brought up something. So if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, the Matthew Wood Institute of Herbalism is my kind of professional teaching arena there. So that would be just right off the bat best.
So that's the website?
Yeah, that's Facebook name and website woodherbs.com.
Okay, perfect. All right. And for anybody, if you're driving out there, we'll have that information on the answers.network website as well. Matthew, thank you so much for coming on. And please, if you have another book coming out, please let us know. I'd love to have you back and get more information.
Yes, you're doing a great job. Thanks, Alan.
All right.
See you and everybody else.
Thank
Adios.
you. All right. And for everybody out there, please be sure and join us next Monday when we are joined again by Erica Mather to discuss her amazing new book, Your Body, Your Best Friend. This is End the Confidence-Crushing Pursuit of Unrealistic Beauty Standards and Embrace Your True Power. Now, for everybody, please visit our archives of past interviews at answers.network, and you can subscribe to the show, which is going to make it very easy for you. You can do it at iHeartRadio, Spotify, SoundCloud, Stitcher, YouTube, Spreaker, BeatShoot, YouTube, as well as many other popular podcasts. If you listen to a podcast that doesn't have it, please ask for it now. If you like what you hear, please leave a review. I want you to know that we greatly appreciate it, and it's going to help us get this positive message out to more people. So for everybody out there, be good human beings and be with us again next week on Answers Network.
Hello, I'm Marty Cove. You might remember me from roles such as Sensei in the Karate Kid films. I've done over 100 films and countless stunts in my career, and I've always given 100%. With the damage done to my body over time, I needed to find relief from my chronic pain. My passion for health and fitness drove me to find a natural way to combat muscle pain. Teaming up with doctors, detectives, and a compounding pharmacist, we've created Marty's Cobra Cove Ultra Strength CBD Cream. It's the only thing that has been strong enough to knock out my pain, and fast. Honestly, you may have tried the rest, but it's time to try the best. It's legal, it's safe, and 100% effective. Show your pain, no mercy. Go to www.martyscobracove.com.
You're listening to Answers Network with Allen-Cardoza, only on LA Talk Radio.